So this is Baruch here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and we're into the SIFRA Tzidiyuta, and we're going to start going into really, I think, deep section a second time to be able to finish our way through it. Now, we got into this, let me see if I can find it. Where is it? No, it's way over here. We got into this piece, and I guess I'll read the piece, and we'll start working through it. Let me see if I got this right or not. This is number Kaf Daled, Kaf Hey, and that's all right here. So he says like this. Now what we're trying to work on here is the explanation of the pasuk, which says Hashem Elokim Ata Hachilosa. Now we're going to get a further quote from it a little bit later, but it's been focusing on the word Hachilosa, which means you began to show us. Question is, what is he talking about? Show what? Show where? Show when? And we've been working this. We've been working this a lot. So here we are on number Hey, and this is a certain definition of what we want to talk about. Now we're going to work the notes on it too. In the Zohar Chai, he says, Bir kan da pasuk Iri be'erev Yom Kippur, that the pasuk is talking about that. What time is it? Hachilosa, the beginning to show. So what we're going to see, it happens on Erev Yom Kippur, called Nidre line. V'zeh sod b'torch devaro, v'kol zecha sod is the concept of dasha. Now dasha is grasses or plant life growing up out of the ground. And he said, but the word dasha has a lot going on with it. It says yisod, it represents sod, umalchus, the nukva, Hanisakenes besod Erev Yom Kippurim. Now let's understand is that for the yichud to take place, if all the blessings that we want to take place, there has to be a tikkun affected, not just in Zeranpin, which is going to bring Zeranpin into perfection, or an ability to, let's call it adulthood, and the ability to be able to reproduce, but also in the nukva of Zeranpin, that is in Malchus, in the female aspect. And what part of the female aspect? Well, the female aspect, just like Zeranpin, has 10 spheros. And the 10 spheros, we start looking at the bottom, which is a place where the actual exchanges will take place, which is in her Yisod and Malchus. On the Sekene Besod, and when is the Yisod and Malchus of the Nukva Mesukin? When it becomes ready or available to be able to mate? That's when it takes place, Erev Yom Kippurim. So this is the beginning of a process. And the process has something to do with this bring forth grasses that we have in this word, dasha. So he said, let's look at the word dasha. Dasha has 3 letters, obviously. We're going to go through them. He says, Daled refers to the Kaf base, the concept of Kaf base, which is also the concept of Yerushalayim. Shin, the letter Shin, which is part of Dasha, refers to a tzir, Nekudas tzir. Now, let's explain this. So, what does tzir mean? And the fact that the Shin also refers to the concept of Tzion. So, we have Yerushalayim, we have Tzion. Now, we know that Zion, and everybody's talking about all this all the time. And we're going to find out that Al Pisod, Tzion is not a place in Eretz Yisrael, or what is it exactly? And he's going to tell us. He said, so let's go over and look as we're going through this. Erev Yom Kippur, we have some notes on this. So let's look down at the bottom and see how I can make the notes work. This actually could work. I didn't realize I could move it around a little bit easier. So he says, what does he say? Erev Yom Kippur, that's the time we're talking about now. Anat Srichem the Sake, Yisod Umalchus Shal the Nukva. We make a tikkun at the very bottom of the Nukva. This means the place or ultimate place, the definition Adkan. So he says, and there's more to that. So let's see the next one. So the next one has a richus to it, what we call a richus. It goes on. L'chavonas adavarim. So let's try to understand with some unusual words there we couldn't figure out. Yesh dahakdim kama hakdamos b'divrei Arizal. Behind the Sheyisod and Malchus the Nufachim are called by these names, Sion and Yerushalayim. Sion refers to the Yisod of the Nukva, and Yerushalayim refers to the Malchus of the Nukva. So he says, you could see this in the Eitz Chaim. So he says, let me see, V'zel Lashono, this is the language. Amatzino Shatzion, who be Yisod, Yerushalayim is in Malchus. V'chein hu hadavar, this is the thing, like they can notice a Yisod b'nukva, that this, we're talking about the 10 spheres of the nukva, she has a Yisod also. The 10 spheres of the nukva, he nekuda the nikrat Zion. The nekudas Yerushalayim is the nekudas Malchus, it means the Malchus of this, Shabbat of Malchus. As we said, it's the Malchus of Malchus and the Yesod of Malchus. Let's get a little focus here. Not too bad. Od Mavur Shams, he says something like this, and it gets a little deeper over here. And we try, this is one of those deals where you want to try to follow the bouncing ball because it's moving around a little bit. Od Mavur Sham de B'Yosod de Nukva, near Shamim Kof Beis Ozius HaTorah, Sod Oz Daled. What is a Daled, which also comes from the name Shakai, of the Daled of Shakai, which is part of the Daled that has to do with this word Dasha that I was talking about earlier, but now we're moving over to this name, Shin Daled Yud. Sheyesh B'cha B'tzuras Beis Vavim, so if you look at the Daled, it could be a Vav on the top and the Vav on the side, and then there's a Os Yud, it's like they call it an Uketz, we're going to call it an Uketz, it sticks out on the corner where the two meet. Orlukov base, so if you put them all together, the Yud is 10, and the two Vavs are 6, and 6 is 12 is 22, and that's Gomokain, Nirsham Bo Os Shin. So the same way as that you have an impression or a stamp in that place of the 22 letters, which are visualized by the letter Dalet, you also have the same thing coming into this place in the letter Shin. That's a Shin that comes from the name Shakai. Now, the name Shakai, I know, I try to throw everything I can to try to understand. It really refers to Yesod in a certain way. That's a Yesod, because Yesod is the ability to be able to push out the Shefa. Shehu Kaminyan Seer, but it turns out the word, the letter Shin is 300, has the same gematria as the word Seer. Seer is the gematria of 90, and 10 is 100, plus 200 is 300, same thing. But so Seri Hadalsos Vayisod, and this is the secret of a concept that we're going to be looking at over here, which is the hinges of the doors of Yisod. So he says, you can see that in Eitz Chaim V'Zel Shona, this is a quote from there. Gam b'Yisod the Nukva Nirshamim Kof Beis Asvon Didor. You see over there that there is an impression, a stamp of 22 letters that belong to her. V'alkein yesh koich b'Yisod shelo. So therefore, there's an ability as in the Yisod of her. V'kabel sham hatipa l'tzayer sham, to be able to receive the tipa that is going to come through that Yisod, come into that Yisod. Let's see the words again. Become yesh koich b'Yisod, her Yisod, which is her male part, a male part of the female. He says it has the ability to be able to keep to receive the tipa as part of the flow pattern, because these 22 allow that to happen. Sham v'amnam min akof beis asfon na'asin dalsos, from the 22 letters, which could be formed into be symbolized by the letter Dalet. You make the Dalet is also the same word as Dalet, which means door. So it nasin dalsos shebeisha shel beis harechem, in her womb. So she has gates now. So ki tsuras the Dalet, as we said before, tsura is a yud, and beis vavim. And so therefore you have the number 22. That's the 22 that makes the gate. Now use your imagination. Because the yud is in between the beis vavim, and it actually is the point at which they join together. So if you want to know where it is, it's right here, this little spot right here, where it's in the back of the Dalet. So now we said that these doors, Shabarechem, that are in the Bechem, the Isha, who sewed Zos HaDalet. It's a kind of this Dalet. Dalet and Dalet is the secret of this letter Dalet. Shabarna that we said before. Os Yud Shababein Beis Avavim, who sewed Sir Hadalas, is the concept of the hinge. the hinge of the delit. The seer is a hinge, a delit. Shekol ha-delit soveves Allah, because the whole door always swings on this hinge. But seer, gematria shin, that we've said before, that's the shin. He's saying it's come from the name Shakai. I'm also thinking it's come from the name Desha, so that's why I'm working on a little bit to say why he brought Desha up right away. But here we're moved to Shakai. Shu Gimel, which is the concept of Gimel, the Gimel Kavim, 3 different lines. One representing the right line, left line, center line, which we see all the time in Zeranpin. But also Shin, that's what you see, the key. Berechem and Nukva. Now let's look back again. In the Rechem of Malchus, referring to the place of her where you would see her Yesod and her Malchus, in her Rechem, Hanukva, Nirshamo call Gimel Kavim, Shein Chesed, Gevura, and Teferes, Kenoida, those are also impressed there. So you have the Shin, which is the lines that are coming from there. I think we saw this earlier, he's mentioned it earlier, and you had the Daled, which is the hinges. Okay, so that was the idea that we had there. Let's look a little more. So we're still really going in the same ideas and refining it more. Now he says, Od Mevura B'Tamei HaMitzvah. So there's a place called the Tamei HaMitzvah, I explained over there. The Bechinas Daled, the Bechinas Daled Sheyesod the Nukva, that concept that we have, this Daled that we talked about. Who Bechinas Malchus the Malchus, that Daled always refers to Malchus. Malchus Daled also means Dalus, which means poverty. The Nukva is empty. That's her main thing, is that this is why she requires the world to come to her, because she has nothing of her own. V'zos bechinas malchus the malchus, so this is the poor of the poor. Behind the Yerushalayim, also known as Yerushalayim, the most needy place in the world, is that right? Shuhu malchus the nukva, which is the malchus of the nukva. Bechinas ha'oz yud shebe'uketz ha'oz daled, so that little tip at the back side of that daled. Shuhu Hatzir, which is the hinge now, who's so Nakudas Tzion, that's the concept, so he says that the hinge is Nakudas Tzion, which is the male aspect, is the one that moves everything around, makes things happen. V'chadalas Sovev, or he says the Dallas, I don't know if we get mixed up which one it is, for the Dallas, which is the door, Tisov Alatzira, it goes around on this hinge. She'ena mispeshet is the concept that doesn't go wild all over the joint, other but koach yud. So therefore the yud is running it. So the yud has all the energy within it. The vavs themselves don't have the energy. They represent a position, let's say. So he says, v'dalet, sova ala atzira, she'ena mispeshet the kam, ela b'bechinas hayud, is b'koach hayud. Ki hayud neshama, look at this, it's panimi, in other words. V'hadalet is the body. His pashtus hadalet, sod bechinas malchus, so as the dalet spreads, it's in the secret of malchus, the malchus shemispashetis. It's the malchus of the malchus that's now starting to spread out, or move down. Of hayud, Romez, the nekudas sion, the malchus, so Kodesh Kedoshim. Now, in my poverty way, I'm not sure what he meant by Shemish Mispashetis. Let's read it again. He says, Ki Hayud is Neshama, and the Daled is the Guf. Being his Pashbas a Daled. Now we're spreading the Daled. What does it mean? The Daled becomes bigger? So Bechinas Malchus, the Malchus Shemispashetis. So this is the Malchus, which is, I'm not sure exactly, projecting itself. V'hayud remez the nekudas sion the malchus. This is the Yusod the malchus, Sod Kodesh Kedoshim, which is the secret of the entrance into, I guess, in the Kodesh Kedoshim, which would be the malchus of malchus. The mountain is Vara Divrei Rabbi Zohar Chai. Now we want to explain that we had the Zohar Chai that brought these abbreviations earlier, and he's going to go through them now. And we will, at the same time as we do this, we'll go through the notes. V'zel l'shono, The Daled represents Kaf base, represents the concept of Kaf base, and it also represents the concept of Yerushalayim. The Shin is really the same gematria as the word Sir, which means hinge. It's Nekudas Etzion, and he says that this is the Yesod. The Yesod has the energy within it, Adkan, and it makes everything else work. Behind the key, Oz Daled, whose Sod Kaf base Ozir Shaladalas. So this is the concept of the 22 letters of the door, which makes the doorway. V'hu Sod Malchus, the Malchus. That's also the secret of the Malchus, which is, in other words, the very bottom of Malchus itself. Shehu Yerushalayim, also, which is known as Yerushalayim, which is, let's say, so to speak, if you were Yesod, that's the ultimate destination. That's where you want to wind up, is in Yerushalayim. V'oz Shin was the gematria of Tzir. V'hu Sod Oz Yud Sheba'ukot Tzadalad, which we talked about before. Shehu Remez, the Nekudas Sion. This is called the Sion, the place. Also, you want to get to this place, because only from Sion can you find your way into Yerushalayim. So only from Sion, which is the Yesod of the Nook, can you find your way into the Malchus of the Nook. It's a Sion de Malchus. It's the Yesod of Malchus. Now he said we're going to pick up some more notes with God's help and try to work our way through them. Shehu Panimi, which is the most interior place, which I think he's talking about once again reaching the Malchus of Malchus. Shekula Shabbos, and that is a place which is completely and totally Shabbos. Now, I'm not really sure what this means, so let's go down and take a look at note number Kaf Vav. Note number Kaf Vav goes down here, and it says, what did he mean by, he says it's a place called Kula Shabbos. So he gives a site reference. When we talk about these two Yudin, now we're talking about two Yudin. Shall base Sirim, because there are two gates. Ne'emar Mechalalecho Mos Yumas. Now I have a whole hard time understanding this. He said that those who, we talk about Shabbos here. So the Pasuk is saying that those who violate the Shabbos will certainly die. And so he's talking perhaps a spiritual death. Chalel, the law, so it's empty space. So that empty space that we're talking about, which I'm assuming that the empty space, is from what we've been reading, I'm assuming that it refers to the Malchus of Malchus. So he said the empty space, which is the word chalel, which up above we use it to mean profanity, or profane something, to make something kaddish, not kaddish. So he said v'chalel gematria chaim shalah. The idea of the chalel, he says, is the life of her. What does that mean? It's an empty place, and in another meaning, it means those who profane it, those who profane Shabbos. So let's see what he says. Again, the Halal is gematria chaim shalah. So he says something else. V'zeh shabsosad tishmoro, you should keep guard my Shabbos. He says she has pashtus zroas lahosif bechol ala kodesh. This phrase has no particular meaning to me right now. In the SIFRA Tzniuta, all over, there's name dropping, or pasuk dropping, or parts of little psukim. So here we have she has pashtus zroas, leaves extending your arms to bring out the chol of the kodesh, like Friday afternoon, or here we're talking about Erev Yom Kippur. V'harei remez the Shabbos atzmo, it's a remez to Shabbos itself. He says what? Lahosif mechol ala kaddish, to add kedusha into the normal weekday. Remez the Shabbos atzmo, ayin sham b'mavurash penimius achalol, so should be yesod. So let's go to yesod. He says inside of the yesod of the nukva, there's an empty space. In that empty space, you have the bechina of Shabbos Atzma. Needs to be a lot better explained. More further explanation is needed for me to understand it. And we'll just leave it as a name drop for right now and try to understand the concept of Shabbos, as it refers to the empty space in the Yesod of the Nukva. V'kulam tov, kula tov. So number Kof Zion says, and all of it is good. Is that okay? Let's see what this says. Yeah, this is a different one. Ritzon Lomar, he means to say like this: Ki beis tzirim, these two hinges, heim besod beis yitzrim. Now this is where it gets also deeper too. It's a concept of the Yetzer Tov, sheyesh behem Yetzer Tov v'Yetzer Hara. So now we said the two hinges represent two different ways that the function goes, either good or bad. Or the Yetzer Tov is a tendency to do good, or to the good condition, and the Yetzer Ra, which is the bad condition of because human beings are partial. We got badness in us too. So you turned it around. Her hinges turned around. What does that mean? They can go this way, they can go that way. So what is it that it goes this way, goes that way? It could be Yetzer Hara, Yetzer Tov. That seemed to be a metaphor we used before. So he says this refers to the hinges of the gates that can be found in the rechem of a woman. So he speaks and of the libidinal drive. I'm trying to use this word, I think it's a little bit better, of the female. V'inyan kitzir as a gematria of shin. And we already talked about that as being a confluence of the three lines. We also had the concept of the Dalet, which is the gates themselves. So tzirim, but if you have two of them, that means it could go different ways. That's Beish Shin, which brings you the gematria of 600. So if you're talking about Malchus, and there's a possibility that false ideas can affect the Yesod and the Malchus of the female force in the world, Oz Na'asis Osir Sheker, you wind up going into the letters of lies, that means lie. Shin Rishona Kamashahi, so it's 300. The first 300 is just a normal 300. So let's say that's the Yetzer Tov. The Shin Shnia Ba'osius Kar, which also has the Osius of cold. The Zechu Tefilus Hanavi, the Hanavi Yochai, he says, Yatzir Samoch, a person should rely, Titzor Shalom, and Rayon Hashem, and Titzor Shalom will be able to guard his peace. Now what's that all about? He says, now this is what he says like this. Since we said there are two hinges, the tzir that we're talking about, which is the Yetzer of the woman, so that's the idea. Yetzer, Samuch Titzor Shalom. You have to guard it to keep the Shalom. He means to say that the possibilities of going the wrong way with the libidinal drive of the woman has to be guarded, so it doesn't go that way. Also, to guard it from the powers of false ideas. Shelo ya'asa sheker, so that it shouldn't become a lie. Rakshi yesholom, only what you want is peace, and should be balanced. Should be in the proper form. Only a 300. So the Yesod and Nikra Shalom connoted because the Yesod is also Shalom. When the Yesod is in the case of Shalom, the Shalom we're talking about in the Nukva, then that's what you got. This is some kind of a big secret over here. We hope we hear more about it. He says, Yud. Now, what about the Yud? Shepenibius Yesod, which is in the Penibius the Yesod. And we said the Yesod, the Yud, goes between the two lines which make up the Dalet. And it makes it in between. It's in the inside. The Nukva, Shepenibius Yesod, the Nukva, Hanal. Ein ba tov ra, doesn't have good and bad. Ela kula tov, but it's all just good. A lot of ideas there, a lot of things moving around, how to try to put them together. That's what we're trying to do here, and we have a little bit more to do, and we're going to do it. So the next part says, so the next part gets really harder for me to understand. Now, if you take this phrase, now you are beginning to show that your servant, so on and so forth, and we said that this refers to Erev Yom Kippur. So he says, Laharos, Roshei Tevos, you take this word, and it comes out to be the name Leah. Leah, and then he says it also goes with the concept of Yerushalayim. Now, this is a little hard for me, and the reason why is because in the Olam Hatikun, Leah comes before Rachel, so it would be on the top. Here, we're saying something opposite. So let me see, it's just a fact, what can I do with it? So I don't know. So let's go down here and take a look at this on number 28. That is Leah. Now, how is it that Malchus there is Leah? So he says the Yisod concept, the male concept is called Rachel in this case, and the female concept, which is Malchus, is called Leah. Let me see if there's an understanding that I can get, because I said, like I say, it contradicts some of my thinking, or some of what I learned somewhere else, but this is a book of contradictions. So the Yesh Beis Bechinos Leah v'Rachel, there are two actually different kinds of Bechinos of Leah and Rachel. Where are they found? They're found in the Yesod of the Nukva. So what is Avizel Shonu Sham? So let's see what he's talking about. So he said, V'hadalad Gedola, when, like in the Shema, I don't know where he's talking about this Dalad Gedola, but let's say he's talking about in the Shema, I know there's a big Dalad over there. Remes the Umas Leah v'Rachel. It's really a remes in the relationship, or the relativity of Leah to Rachel. Adkan, Ein Sham. Now, again, another name drop, another flash drop. I don't know where this goes. So look at this bird. There was a Hechel Abracha, rather. He said, as I try to understand it, V'tavein, understand. Sheyesh guf v'neshama. There's a dalet, there's a door, and there's a hinge for the door, v'tzir. So he said, v'neshama v'dalet v'tzir, min acharayim, from the backside, v'od so v'or, and there's also hide there, outside hide, sod Leah, which is a circuit of Leah. Now, how this works, I don't know. The Rav can use words in all different kinds of ways. Let's see how this goes. So he says, Leah, v'yesh guf v'neshama dalad v'tzir min aponim, which is a sod Rachel. So relative to whatever we're talking about here, and there's a lot, is to think this, you have on the front is Rachel, on the back is Leah. On the front, he must be saying like this, that's the yesod of the concept of Tzion, and on the back is Malchus, which is probably true, which is the concept here, though he says that's a concept of Leah. Adkan, Ein Sham, V'rei Gam Zohar Chai, also there's more over there. So, looking for help, the Yerushalayim. So when we say this word Yerushalayim, and he says Yerushalayim, which is the Malchus of Malchus, is Leah, but Tzion is Rachel. Mavur b'kama b'komas, and this is in a lot of different places. Rei b'pri Eitz Chaim, he says over there v'shar kavanos, and drush tikun chatzos over there, tamei mitzvos. Okay, those are different places where you could see this use of these words like that. Now we're going to read on to number 28. So we said this idea about Rachel and Leah. Let me get it back where we could see it. So Leah, or Yerushalayim. Now we're over here, number Chaf Ches, 28. He said, Sod Ata. Let's take the word Ata. So, because the pasuk says, Ata hachiloso. So you have begun. That's the way we understand a simple Hebrew translation. Sod Ata is actually the sod of the 22 letters of the body. V'sod es avdaka So when it goes on, you've begun to show your servant, Heim Hatzirim. Vatzirim sod Eved Dalid Pam Av. I don't understand. So there was a vasod as Avdako, Heim Hatzirim, Vatzirim sod Avdako. It's the word of Avcha. So he said Dalid Pamim Av Minyan Avdo. I don't really see how that adds up. As Gedalcha, that you began to show your greatness, is Panemius and the Shama, which is the or of the letter Yud. It's not easy to hear or understand what he's saying. So let's go over here and try to get what we can out of it. And here we go. Ritzon Lomar that Dalsos Yesod the Nukva. Heim Roshem Shorish Haguf. They are the impression of the root of the body. Shenivda Bekof Base Oceans Hatara. So we said that the Dalsos, and we had the Dalids there, which refer to the area of the Rechem of the Nukva. He said the Yesod the Nukva. They are pressed there as the root of the body. Shegeneged the Kof Base Oceans Hatara, which we said. Kavavur Be'etz Chaim. He says it's all of his elder Shona, but look, let's see what he says. Aka Inyan, who the Inyan is really like this. Kehlo kol ha'evarim, all of the different limbs. Kulam are like hasaor shebisaso of bisaso. They're like yeast placed into the dough. And what is that yeast? That yeast are the 22 letters Shehem Soda Rabavonim, which is the streaks of the foundation stones of the stone, Shemechem Nimnis Abayas, that the bias is built on. So at the very bottom of Malchus is either the Yesod. I'm really a little confused about the different places, but I think he's talking about both. He said, Vonim Shemechem Nimnis Abayas, so the Yesod is the Malchus is built this way. The Gavar Yudato Shehesh B'Torah Kaf Zayin Osir Shehem Kaf Beis Osir V'Chamish Kafulos. So let's talk like this. We said, well, you know what? There are 22 letters. But let's remember also that there are 5 double letters called the Mansapach. Mem, Nun, like that, Sadi, etc. So that's the Mansapach. Which are Chamisha Kafulos. V'Amnam and you place into it the 22 letters. So he said, we'll start again. When you form, when Malchus is formed, and at the time that she's formed, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet wind up inside of her. They shine into her, and they seal up the 22 letters inside of her Yesod. V'sham nisha rishumo, and their rishimo, the rishum of those, the impression, the stamp of them, always remains. This is also this concept of this pasa. And he lay in that place. But actually it means v'yesh kaf beis osios, in that place. Keniskar bezoar, that's a zoar, adkan. V'hinecha b'milas ato. So let's look at what he's trying to get at, because ata hachilosa. So the beginning, it's got to be with the 22 letters. So he said, ata merumas the osios anal. It's a reference to the 22 letters we mentioned before. He says, how is this? Ki at shal ata is really represents the numbers between the aleph and the taf of Hainu Kaf Beis Osis bin Os Aleph Ad Yos Taf, which are 22. Then you still have the letter Hey. The Hey is going to refer to the Matzapach. So Hey V'Shel La'ato Hu Hey Osius Gefulos, which are also known as Matzapachana. Rebbe Pri Eitz Chaim, look over there. V'Zel L'Shonda B'Diluk. V'Zecha V'Sod Beis Osius As Shibamilas Ato. So this is the concept of the first 2 letters as your 22. Shehem Kaf Beis Osis Min Aleph Ataf, which we said before. V'gan Ata Nikbesach B'Hei Gevuros. So now the 5 Gevuros are going to come in too. Shehem the Hey Osius of Mansapach. This is Mansapach. Atzman Mishrashim, which are Misharsham, that comes into the root. That's and it goes into the root of all of it. V'Zechav Os Hey Shal Ata. Now, what we're going to do with this, I'm not sure, but we have a lot of background information referring to, as we began to say at the very beginning in this piece, of what does it mean when it starts? Ata starts to be shown. Ata what's exactly? Elokim Ata Hachilosa, that you, God, have begun to show. What are you going to show? When are you going to show? When does this show start? He says it's Erev Yom Kippur, and then all the rest of what we thought is going to be food for thought as we go on, because that's what we're doing right here. This is Baruch Fleischman. You've been listening to the Tikkun Elevator Kolo. Thank you if you made it through.